We begin the Gemara today on Daf Nun Daled Amud Beis, 5 lines from the bottom of the Yamud. V'ha d'Tnan. This Gemara is a continuation from what it spoke about before regarding various of the arayis, that the Isser is not only when the relation is Mina'av, that they share the same father, but also Mina'aim, if they share the same mother. Here the Gemara brings a Mishnah where we see that the erva of Achais Ishtay, your wife's sister, is also when it's your wife's sister and you only share the same mother and not the same father. And the Gemara will bring the source where we see that the erva is also Mina'aim. But first, the Mishnah where we see this. So for Hadit Nan, there's a Mishnah later here in the Masechta where it says as follows. Amrullah, they said to a person, Meisa Ishtecha, that your wife passed away. So this person is overseas and he's being told that his wife passed away. So V'nasa Chaysa Mi'aviyah. So now, after his wife passes away, you're allowed to marry her sister. He gets married to a sister and they share the same father. The two sisters here are a sister where they share the same father. Then Mesa, then he's told that she passed away. V'nasa Chaysa Me'ima. And now he married the sister to the second wife, but she's her sister, only sharing the same mother. Which means that wife number 1 and wife number 2 are sisters, but number 3 is not related at all to number 1. And then similar, this repeats itself again. Mesa, then he's told that his third wife passed away, V'nasa Chaysa Me'aviyah. And he goes and he marries his sister, shares the same father, to the third wife. And then Mesa, he's told that the third wife passes away, V'nasa Chaysa Me'ima. And now he married a sister where they share the same mother, which means that wife number 5 is a sister of wife number 4, but is not a sister of wife number 3. So therefore, what's the halacha here? And now what happens is he was told that his first wife and then the second wife, and he was told that they passed away. But it wasn't true. It turns out that the first wife was alive and the other ones were alive as well. So what happens, so the halacha is, mutter b'rishayna u b'shlishis u b'chamishis. So he's married and the marriage is good with the first, third and fifth wife. Because if the first wife is alive, so the second wife, which was a sister to the first wife, that marriage did not take effect at all. It's an erva and there's no, the kedushin is not typhus. So therefore the first wife is a wife, the second one is not. Now the third one, which is not at all a sister to the first, the marriage did take effect. The fourth one, which is a sister to the third one, the marriage did not take effect because it turns out she was alive. And the fifth one, which is not a relative to the third one, the marriage did take effect. So the first, third, and fifth, the marriage took effect. And the second and the fourth, which were sisters to a wife that he actually married, did not take effect at all. And also the Mishnah there continues, the Paitreis Tzariseyan, and if one does Yibum Chalitze, it will pater the other, but V'aser B'shniya or B'revius. But the second and the fourth wife, he's aser to them because the second, the Kedushin was not Taifis because he was still married to the first, and it's her sister, and the fourth, his Kedushin is not Taifis because he was married to the third, and the fourth is a sister. So the bia of one of them will not pater the other because they are not his wives. But if the story turns out to be different, that the first wife actually passed away, and now when he marries the second one, so the marriage of the second wife did take effect. So then the halacha is going to be that the second and the fourth, the kedushin takes effect. The first is not alive anymore. The third and the fifth, the kedushin will not take effect. So then mutter b'shniya or b'revius. So the second wife, where the kedushin took effect because the first one passed away, so that's his wife. Now, the third one, which is a sister to the second one, the kedushin did not take effect. The fourth one, which is only a sister to the third one, sharing the same mother, and she's not a sister to the second one, so the kedushin of the fourth one took effect, but only the second and the fourth took effect. The third and the fifth, which are sisters to his current wife, the marriage did not take effect, and therefore, Paitris Tzariseyan, over here, by the second and the fourth, in this case, one patas the other, if you do Yibum and Chalitze, but V'aser b'shlishis u'b'chamishis. In this case, where the first one did actually pass away, so the third and the fifth, that is, the Kedushin did not take effect, and they are also to him. Okay, now what's the point that comes out from this Mishnah? Says the Gemara, Alma, I see from here, Achais Ishtoi, that when it's your wife's sister, Beimena Av, whether it's his sister because they share the same father, Beimena Aim, or they share the same mother, Asurais, either way it'll be Asur. Minalon, from where do I know that the Erev of Achais Ishtoi is in both cases, whether Mena Av or Mena Aim? And says the Gemara, Yalef Ma Chaisai. I learn it from the erva of a sister. Ma Chaisai, just like by a sister, Beimena Av, Beimena Aim. It's whether it's a sister sharing the same father or mother, Afkan, so to here by a Chaisishtai, Beimena Av, Beimena Aim. So we had this before, the source before on the previous Amid, that by a sister it's Beimena Av and Beimena Aim. Says the Gemara, but maybe V'leilev Midday Dasai. Maybe we should learn out from an aunt, from your father's brother's wife. And over there, Madai Dasai, by the aunt, Mina Av v'loi Menaim. It's only Aser if it's an aunt, Mina Av, but not Menaim. Afkan Mina Av v'loi Menaim. So to over here, maybe we should say, by Achais Ishta, it's also only Mina Av. Says the Gemara, no, Mistavra Ma'achais Av v'leila Melef. It's more logical to compare the lav, or the erva that is, of Achais Ishta to the erva of a sister. Why? She can kreve atzmai. Both of them are direct relatives to him. Mikreve atzmai. It's two cases that are the relatives to him, but not to learn out from Deidasai, which is a relative through the father. Adarabe, on the contrary, there's a svara to say that you should compare to an aunt. Mideidasai avalela meilaf. There's a svara to say you should compare Achais Ishtai to Deidasai because she came dava yedei kedushin midava shaydei kedushin. Because there's a comparison here that in both cases the relation happens through a kedushin. Over here, Achais Ishtai, because you married this wife, and by the father's brother's wife is also through kedushin. So maybe we should compare to that. Ella, says the Gemara, so we can't learn from either. Me'eshes ach yafinan. We learn out the halacha of Achais Ishtai from Eshes ach, your brother's wife. The shekein davar yedei kedushin. Over there, it's also a relation that comes through a kedushin that your brother was mekadosh this woman. And the kreve atzmai, and it's a relative directly to you, not through your father. And just like over there, it applies both if it's mina av or mina aim. So I learn out regarding a Achais Ishtai that it also applies to both, whether it's mina av or mina aim. So now the Gemara asks, was Veishes ach gufa minolon? How do I know by the erva of Eshes ach that over there it's whether it's a brother mina av or brother mina aim, that either way his wife is also to you? Tanya, so we learned in the Braisa the source for this. Ervas Eshes achicha lo yisegale. So when it says this erva in the Torah, we learned that it's bei mina av, bei mina aim. Whether a brother that's mina av or mina aim. Now, atay me bei mina av, bei mina aim, you say that it's either one or maybe not. Ela mina av v'lo mina aim. Maybe it's only a brother that's mina av and not mina aim. And vidinu, and it's logical to say this way because chayiv kan and v'chayiv b'chaysay. Over here, it's Vidinu actually, the Gemara is going back to say that it's logical to say that it's both Bei Mina Av and Bei Mina Aim, because just like here there's an erva, and there's the erva of a sister. Ma Chaisai Bei Mina Av, Bei Mina Aim. By the sister it's both. Avkam Bei Mina Av, Bei Mina Aim. Over here as well, by Eshes Achiv, it should also be both. Or we can say, like we said before, klach lederech zu. We can go in a different direction. And I could say, chayiv kan v'chayiv b'deidosai. There's the erva here of Eshes Achiv, and there's the erva of deidosai. Ma deidosai mina av v'loi minaim. There it's only mina av and not minaim. Afkam mina av v'loi minaim. So here as well, it's also only mina av and not minaim. So nira lemi daima. Let's see your brother's wife, this erva, to which one of these two that we just brought is it more comparable to? Donin, so on one svara is Donin kreve atzmai, mi kreve atzmai. I should learn out a case of a relative where it's a relative directly to you from another case which is a relative directly to you, and therefore Eshes ach is your brother's wife that's a relative to you directly, and I learn out that case from your sister, which is your relative. Why should I learn out from an aunt that it's a relative to you through your father? Or there's actually a svara to say the opposite. I learn out Eshes ach, which becomes a relative to you through an act of kedushin, and so to here Deidasai is your father's brother's wife, so that's also through kedushin. And I can't bring a raya from a sister, which is an isser naturally of her being your relative, without kedushin. So therefore we don't know from where to learn out. So Talmud Loimar, that's why there's an extra pasuk. by the Isser of Erva of Eishes Och, where the Torah says, Ervas achicha hi. This is the Erva of your brother. Why is it saying this extra pasuk? Beimen ha'av, beimen ha'em. That the Isser of Erva Eishes achicha is whether it's a brother from the father or the mother. Now, says the Gemara, wait a minute. Yeah, we have extra pasuk here, but maybe the extra pasuk is teaching me something else. Maybe it's both going only on Eishesach Mena'af. But why do I need two psukim here? Chode, one is coming to tell me the Yeshla Banim, if she has children, B'chaye Baila, when the husband's still alive. In other words, if the husband divorced her, but he's still alive and she had children, that you're not allowed to marry your brother's wife that he divorced. And v'chade, and another pasuk maybe has to come to teach me the ein la banim b'chaye baila, that if her husband divorced her, he's still alive, but she never had children with him. I would think maybe in such a case you are allowed to go marry your brother's wife, but even then you're not allowed. So maybe I need both of these psukim for this, and not to teach me that the Isra of Eishes Achiv is Beimen ha'av and Beimen ha'em. Says the Gemara, no. Ein la banim, the fact that even in a case where a person's brother divorced his wife and she had no children with him, b'chaye baile, still alive, midrav huna nafka. That we brought in the previous amud a raya from the pasuk. What Rav Huna said, it says in the pasuk nidahi. And over there we learned out from the extra word nidahi to say that even here it's aser. The Gemara still asks, maybe I needed two psukim by Eishes Och for something else. Maybe both psukim there are only talking about your brother's wife, Mena'af. But what do I need two psukim for? One is speaking about a case where she had children and the husband divorced her, he's still alive, that it's also to marry this woman. And maybe one is coming to say, after the husband passed away, but she had children with him, that even now the Isser still continues. Says the Gemara, no, for that I don't need a pasuk. I don't need a pasuk to say that in such a case, after he passed away, when she had children, that she's still an erva for the brother. Why? From this, that the Torah says, by the mitzvah of Yibum, that she'ein lo banim muteres, that your brother's wife, if you did not have children, so then she's mutter, and there's the mitzvah of Yibum. So hayesh lo banim. So from this I understand that if she did have children with him, even after he passed away, asura, still asa, the Isra of Eishesach still applies. So for that I don't need a pasuk. Says the Gemara, no, not necessarily, but vidilme ein lo banim. Maybe I could say that if he did not have children with her, so then asura la alma v'sharya liyava. So then she's prohibited to get married to anybody else, but she's only allowed to get married to the yavam. That's the mitzvah of Yibum, and then she can't get married l'shuk unless he gives her chalitza. But yesh lo banim, maybe I would say from this I would learn out that if she had children with her husband that passed away, then shari la alma and v'shari liyava. So in such a case, she would be allowed both to anybody, and she would also be allowed to the yavam. Maybe that should be the diuk, not to say that she should be completely asur to the yavam. Inami, or maybe I should say as follows: ein lo banim, if her husband passed away and she didn't have children with him, so then mitzvah. That's when the mitzvah of Yibum applies. Yesh lo banim, but if she did have children with him, so then rishus. Then the Isser of Eishes Ach, the Erva, is off, but there's also no mitzvah. But it's a rishus, it's her choice. Yinami, or I could say different. Maybe ein lo banim, if she had no children with him, so then there's the mitzvah of Yibum. But yesh lo banim loy. But if she had no children, then there's no mitzvah of Yibum, which would also mean, even if you want to go so far to say that it's usher for her to get married to him, but that's only v'lav haba meklal asay. That would be a lav that I only deduce from an asay, because there's the essa of Yibum when there's no children. So from that I understand that when there are children, there's no essa, and therefore it's usher. So this is a lav abba meklal asay, and it's an essa. It's only an essa. But maybe this additional pasuk here, by that it says erves achichahi, when the Torah says erves eshes achicha loy segala, it's coming to tell me that it's even a lav. So the point the Gemara is saying is that from this extra pasuk of erves achichahi, I don't have a source to say that the Isra of Eishes Ach applies both by a brother Mena'av and Mena'ein. Maybe I need one pasuk to say that she's aser when b'chaye baila, and then another pasuk is even after the husband passed away, if she had children with him, to say that it's a lav. So therefore, the Gemara concludes and says, but there's a third pasuk. Kasav krach rinnet. There's actually another pasuk where it says ervas achiv gila, And that third pasuk comes to say that it's your brother's wife, whether it's mina av, whether mina aim, it's both going to be aser. And from there I learn out, like the Gemara began, also to the case of achos ishtay. Okay, maybe I should say, based on what we brought here before, that Eishes ach mina aim, keishes ach mina av, that you compare, since we're saying that we learn out from this extra pasuk here, that we compare your brother's wife mina aim to your brother's wife mina av, and I should compare the two and say as follows: Ma Eishes ach mina av, la'ach hamises by l'sharia, that just like it is by Eishes ach mina av, after the husband passed away, so she's allowed when there's no children, and then there's the mitzvah of yibum. So af eshes ach mina aim. So too I should say regarding eshes ach mina aim, la'ach hamises by l'sharia, that after the husband passed away, she would be allowed, and there would be the mitzvah of yibum. Says the Gemara, no, that I can't say, because it says in the Torah, Amar kra hi. The Torah says ervas achicha hi, and from this kra I learn out that in this that the Isser remains in place, and therefore by Eishes ach mina aim there's no heter, and therefore the mitzvah of yibum does not apply there. Okay, now the Gemara comes back to something that was mentioned earlier, b'negeya to the law or the erva that is of achaisai. Achaisai, the cost of bakaris, by the erva of achaisai, where the Torah spells out that the einish is going to be karis. Lamali, why does the Torah have to spell out that the einish is karis? If it says one general pasuk regarding all the arayis, that the kala shias mikala toevis ha'elu v'nichresu, the Gemara brought the pasuk before on Daf Nun Daled, so why does it have to spell out karis regarding the specific erva of achaisai? Says the Gemara, look at Rabbi Yechanan, it teaches me the halacha of Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan, shemasan kulam behelam machas. If a person was over in all these arayis with one state of forgetfulness, so usually in one helam you're not chayiv more than one karban chatas. But over here, if you do all of them behelam achas, chayiv al kol achas v'achas. The Torah is singling out one of them to say that there's a separate kares for this, and from this I learn to all other arayis as well that each one is distinct and separate, and yechayiv separately for each one kares, and for each one a separate karban chatas. This is what's known as davar hashaya b'chlal, v'yatza min haklal, l'lamed, lo l'lamed al atzma yatza, ela l'lamed al haklal kula yatza. One of the Yud Gimel Midas, and it teaches me regarding all of them that yechayiv separately a karban chatas for it. Well, Rabbi Yitzchak da Amar, and Rabbi Yitzchak said, kol chayve krisis b'chlal hoyu, that all chayve krisis were included in one general pasuk. And v'lama yatzis kares b'chaisai, and why does it say here specifically kares by the erva of a sister, ledoinei b'kares v'loy b'malkis, to say that you only get kares by all of the arayis, even if you give a warning and you mention in the warning that you're going to give malkis, but nevertheless there's no malkis, there's only kares. That's why the Torah is writing here specifically kares to exclude malkis. So if so, l'chalik minolan. According to Rabbi Yitzchak, this halacha that Rabbi Yechanan says that we divide one erva from another and yechayiv for each one separately another karban chatas, where does he learn that from? Says the Gemara, nafkelei, he learns it from this pasuk where it says, mi el isha b'nidas tum asa. So the word el isha, the word isha is extra. So l'chayiv al kol isha v'isha. The Torah is writing it to let you know that yechayiv for each erva, for each woman, separately another karban chatas. Now the Gemara comes back to another one of the arayis where the Torah spells out separately the chiyuv of kares. Regarding an ant, the kasab barachmona aridim yiu. So there the Torah writes aridim yiu, which means it's one of the aspects of kares that this person passes away without any children. So lamali, why does the Torah have to write it there? What is it teaching me if all of them are included in the pasuk where it says that they're all chayiv kares? Says the Gemara, look at the Rabbi, comes to teach me what Rabbi said. The Rabbi asked the following question. Ksiv, in one pasuk it says, Aridim yiyu, that they will be Aridim. Uksiv, Aridim yamusu. And another pasuk it says, Aridim yamusu. So what's the difference here? So Rashi says, Aridim yiyu means that when he's going to die, they're going to be Aridim. So it sounds like it's speaking about a person that had children from before he did this Haveda, but now he's going to die and those children will pass away. He'll bury those children before he passes away. But when it says Aridim Yomusu, over here it's mashma that it's not talking about from those children that he had from before, but it's saying that even if he did not have any children now, but he has children afterwards, and those children that he has afterwards, he's going to die, and those children will be buried before him. So these are two different psukim that are mashma different things. So what is this aridim mean? Says the Gemara, ha keitzad. So what does it mean? We have both of these psukim. So they're both teaching me another aspect of the Kodesh. Yesh loy banim. If he had children from before, did aveire kaivran, he'll end up burying them before he dies. Ein loy banim. He did not have children from before. Hayle chariri. He will not have children that will live. Meaning, even if he has children after he did aveire, they'll pass away before he does. And the Gemara explains, "V'yitztach l'michtav aridim yiyu, v'yitztach l'michtav aridim yamusu." The Torah had to write both of these psukim to say the Kodesh, as the way it applies to the children not being alive, it has to say both of them. Why? Because if the Torah would only use this terminology of aridim yiyu, then hava min, I would say ad chete, that we're talking about those children that he had until he did the avera. So those children will pass away. Yiyu, aridim yiyu is going on those children that he had from before. Avo mechete ve'elech, but from after the aveda, loy, maybe on that this Kodesh does not go, and those children will live. So therefore, Kasav Rachmana aridim yamusu. So the Torah writes aridim yamusu. That means that they die aridim, even children that he has afterwards will also pass away. If the Torah would only write aridim yamusu, that they pass away aridim, that this is only referring to from the time he did aveda till he passes away, that any children he has in that time period will pass away before him. But children that he had from before the aveda, maybe those children will live. Therefore the Torah writes aridim yiyu, that even though now he has children, he will become aridim, meaning that those children that he had from before, he will become aridim because they will pass away. Now the Gemara continues the sugya that we started before, b'negei to hara. So we had the sugya before, and the Gemara brought the source regarding different ones of the arayis. Where do you see that even hara, the beginning of the act of the relation, is already the issa over the erva already? And here the Gemara continues this regarding other scenarios. So the Gemara, hara the chayve lavin minola. Where do I know that hara, even by a erva, which is only a lav, so how do I know that even there, the over the isser already just with hara? Says the Gemara, the answer is midagali rachmana, because the Torah writes shichva zera. It uses the term shichva zera. That means that it's the full relation, not just hara. Where does it write that? Gabi shifcha charufa, by the erva of shifcha charufa. So miklal, from the fact that the Torah there spells out shifcha zera, I understand from this the chayve lavin ba'ara, that the other arayis, including even a erva that's only a lav, so you're over even just with hara. Says the Gemara, Adarabba, on the contrary, maybe I should be medayik the opposite. Since the Torah says regarding chayve krisis that there you're over even with just hara, so shouldn't I say that from there I could prove that regarding other arayis, which is only a lav, maybe it's you only over if the act is done fully. Rav Ashi, so Rav Ashi says no, because in Cain, if that would be the case, so lishtekra meshivcha charufa. So the Torah should be quiet by shivcha charufa, and I would automatically understand, since the Torah says by chayve krisis that it's hara, and I'm medayik from there that anything other than chayve krisis, it has to be the full bia. So why does that have to spell out shichva zera regarding shivcha charufa? I would understand that it has to be of the full act. So the fact that the Torah spells it out over there means I should be medayik from there for a chiyuv lav that it's even if it's only hara. That's the conclusion of the Gemara. Okay, but the Taisus continues here, this discussion, and Taisus says, no, so if so, now that we know regarding a chiyuv lav, that you chayiv only for hara, why did the Torah have to write that by kodesh? I already know it from a lav. So from the fact that the Torah writes it by kodesh, so doesn't that show the diuk that the Gemara just said before, that by chayiv lav, it should not be by hara? Okay, if you look in Taisus explains the continuation of this discussion here in the Gemara. Let's go weiter. Sagt the Gemara, na hara the chayve lavin the kohune minolan. So how do I know that when you have the chiyuv lav that the Torah says regarding the various different women that are not allowed to have a relation with a kohen? So from where do I know over there that it's also even just with hara? So Rashi says because you can't learn out from shivcha charufa, because by a kohen it's not a lav ashava b'koil, it's not a lav that applies to everybody. Says the Gemara Asya, that we learn out kiche. We learn it out because it says by the chi of krisis isha sheyikach es achaysai, the term kiche, and by the chi of lav of kone it also says lo yikachu. That's the source. Weiter the Gemara says, the chayve asay minalon, an erve which is only an isser of an esse, which is the case of a mitzri and a daimi, where the Torah says, dor shlishi yavai, that's the esse, the third generation you can marry with them, which means that the second or first generation you can't, so that's an esse. From where do I know that the isser is even hara? Asye bia bia. I learn out the term bia that it says in the Torah, it says lo yavai mamzer. That's from by Chayve Lavan. It says La Yavai, and it says over here also the term Bia Shlishi Yavai. That's how I compare them. Yevamos l'shuk minalam, the isser of a Yevama that gets married to anybody without chalitza. How do I know that isser is even with hara? Says the Gemara, Ilamandam alav. The opinion that says that the Yevama getting married to anybody without chalitza is a lav. So then it's a lav. We already said before the source of a lav. Ilamandam asay, the mandama that says that it's not a lav, it's actually only an asay. You learn it out from what it says, Yevama yavai aleha, and not anybody else, and he holds it's not a lav, as Rashi explains. So minalam, from where do I know? So asay. So we already said before that it's an asay, where we learn it out from. Ella, so the Gemara says the question though is Yevame liyava minalan. From where do I know? This is the halacha that we had in the beginning of the Perek in the Mishnah, that when the Yevame and the Yavam have a relation with one another and it's only hara, how do we know that that's the mitzvah? Says the Gemara, asye bia bia. I learn out also the same term bia bia that we mentioned before. So the Gemara, Isha lebayla minalan. When a woman has bia with her husband, how do I know the kiddushin? One of the ways of kiddushin is through bia. How do I know that this is with hara alone? Says the Gemara, Asye kiche kiche. That as well I learn out similar to what we said before. By a woman it says kiyika chishisha ba'ala. And then as we said before, it says by the chayv krisis also the term kiche. Zok the Gemara, going back to what we mentioned before regarding the shivcha charufa. So Amarav Lamali the Kasav Rahmana shivcha zera. Why does the Torah use this term of shivcha zera by three cases? Shivcha charufa and shivcha zera. It says be'eshes ish. By the isra of an eshes ish, it says the term as well, and also it says shivcha zera b'saita in the parsha of Saita, where it talks about a woman that secludes herself with a different man. The Torah uses there the term shivcha zera. Says the Gemara, the shivcha charufa kedamana. By shivcha charufa, as we pointed out, that over there the Torah says that the issa is only with the gemar of the bia, and we deduce from that regarding a lav that it's even if it's only hara. So as we explained already, the eshes ish, when the Torah writes by eshes ish the term of shivcha zera, it's coming to teach me prat lemishamish meis. It comes to exclude a case where a person has a relation and the aver is mace. It's not the way it's usually done, and therefore this is not at all the relation of a man and a wife or a woman. Says the Gemara, ha niche lemandama mishamish meis ba'arai is pater. Yep, so there's one mandama that Taka says that in such a case he would be pater. So that's the sources over here, because he used the term shechva zera by an eshesish. El lemandamar chayev, but there's another opinion that says that you would be chayev. Samay kalamema. What is the term shechva zera by eshesish? Teach me. Says the Gemara, el prat lemishamish meisa comes to exclude a case where a person has a relation with a woman after she's dead. I would think to say, even after she dies, the Torah refers to her as she'era, as his wife. Maybe the Isra of Eshes Ish and the Erva would still apply. Kamash Malon, that's where the Torah says, Shichva Zera, which means only a woman that's alive and is able to give birth. Now the Saita Lamali, when it says the term Shichva Zera by a Saita, why is that needed? It says the Gemara Likad Tanya, this is teaching me like it says in the Braisa. Shichva Zera, when the Torah says by a Saita, a woman secluded herself with a man, and it uses this term of Shichva Zera, Prat l'davar acher, comes to exclude something else. Now what's this something else? My davar acher. Amarav Sheishes, Prat l'shekina lo shaloi kedarka. This comes to exclude the case where the husband warns his wife. By every Saita, it begins with the fact that the husband warned his wife not to seclude himself with herself with this man. So he warned her not to seclude herself and to be with him together, shaloi kedarka, not in the ordinary way. So that's what it comes to exclude, that in such a case, the din of Saita does not apply. Amalei Rave, so Rave said that you don't have to learn from here. Mishkevei Isha Ksiv, it says there by Saita, Mishkevei Isha, that's what teaches me that if it's Shalai Kedarka, then the Saita does not apply. So therefore Rave says different. What we're learning out from Shechva Zera here is Prat l'shekinala derech ivarim. He warned her not to be together with this man in any way of closeness through any limbs. That's what he warned her. Amalei Abaye says that's not necessary to exclude either. Pritzusa asar achmana is the Torah over here. Would you think that the Torah would say that it's prohibited to have any immoral behavior? That's not the issue over here, is that she has a relation with another man. That's not included over here in this parsha. Why does that have to be excluded? So therefore Abaye says, Prat l'shekinula b'neshike. It's coming to exclude a case where a man warns his wife with neshike, which means that in that place, the Aver touches externally in that place, and I would think that that's also part of Saita, and the Torah says, no, that's not in the Isser of Saita. Says the Gemara, but this itself is a machlaikis. This is going to be a good pshat, Lamanda Omar, Hara zu achnasas haTorah. How do we define hara, the beginning of the act of biyah, hachnasas haTorah, that if there's a little bit of a beginning of the act of an entry, then that's hara. But less than that, neshike, just externally, is not aser. But the opinion that says that hara actually means neshike, so then mayik l'meima, so that can't be excluded over here. So Ella, we go back to what I mentioned before. A husband warns his wife not to be with this person in any kind of closeness. And the Torah does have to exclude this from the parsha of Saita, even though seemingly it's only pritzus, it's just an immoral behavior, but it's not a real relation. Because there's a svara to say as follows: that you see here that the Torah says that it's all dependent on the husband coming to warn her, what he is particular about. And if he's warning her about this, and he's particular about this, so maybe she should become a saita if he warned her about this. We see he warns her and he's particular about this. Kamash Malan, that's what the Torah says, that it has to be Shechva Zera. Only a relation of Shechva Zera, not just Derech Ivarim. So now the Gemara comes back to what we just mentioned before to define exactly what hara is. So Shmuel said, hara zu neshike. Hara is the external connection that is called neshike. And he gives an example. Mashal Adam shemeniach etzboi al piv, person that places a finger on his lips. It's impossible, the lips which are soft, that it does not push in a little bit into his lips, and therefore the same thing over here is regarding the act. Even if it's just touching externally, it had to have entered a little bit, and therefore this is already considered to be hara. Kiyasa Rabbi Baba Yochanan says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan as well that Gemar Biyeh b'shivcha charufa, when the Torah says that by the erva of shivcha charufa it's only aser if there's the full Biyeh, zu hachnasas haTorah. What does full Biyeh mean? If there's the beginning of the entry of the tip of the aver. That's it. So from that you understand that he's agreeing to what Shmuel said, that hara would be just neshika externally. Most of Rav Sheshe, so Rav Sheshe asks on this. So it says in the Braise, Shichva Zera, the term of Shichva Zera that it says by Shivcha Charufa, Ein Chayev El Al Bias HaMiruk. He's only Chayev on Bias HaMiruk, which the Gemara understands, my love. What does this term mean? Miruk Gid, that the full Eva entered into the body. Only then, that's considered to be a full Bia. So therefore, how could he say that even Achnasas HaTorah is considered to be the full act? Says the Gemara, loy, that's not what the term miruk means. Miruk means at-Torah. Just by the beginning of the Aver, the beginning of the entry, that's already considered to be a Gemar Biyah. Now the Gemara brings another opinion regarding what Rabbi Yochanan said. So before it was quoted that Rabbi Baba Chana was bringing in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, and now Kiyasa Rav Dimi Yom Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Dimi, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that hara zu hachnasas haTorah. That what is hara when there's only hachnasas haTorah? Meaning, before we said hachnasas haTorah is considered to be the gemar of the biyah, and he says, Rav Dimi said, Rabbi Yochanan said, no, hara is hachnasas haTorah. Amrulei, so they said to Rav Dimi, but Rabbi Baba Chana lo yamahachi. Rabbi Baba Chana quoted in the name of Rabbi Yochanan differently, that hara is just neshika, and achnasas haTorah is the gemar biyah. Amalahu, so Rav Dimi responded and he said, listen, oy ihu shakroi, either he's lying, oy ano shakri, either I'm lying. A pretty sharp response, but the point he's trying to say is that you're right. I mean, what I'm quoting the name of Rabbi Yochanan and what he's quoting cannot be reconciled. One of us is what Rabbi Yochanan's opinion is. Another opinion. So when he came and he said in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, he said like Rav Dimi, Hara zu achnasas hatara. That hara is only achnasas hatara. Now the Gemara explains, Ad Rabbe Bar Bachana Vadei Polik. So he's definitely arguing on Rabbe Bar Bachana, which said that achnasas hatara is already the Gemara Bia. The question is, Ad Shmuel mi leime Polik. Is he arguing on Shmuel? Because all Shmuel said was that Neshike is considered to be hara. Regarding achnasas hatara, he didn't clearly say that that's considered to be the Gemara Bia. So the question is he arguing on Shmuel or not? Again, Shmuel only spoke about Neshike. So the Gemara says not necessarily is he arguing on Rabbi Yechanan, because he doesn't argue on Rabbi Yechanan. Mineshike va'ad achnasas hatara hara, because we could still say that according to Rabbi Yechanan, when it says that hara means achnasas hatara, it's not just achnasas hatara. That means from neshike until achnasas hatara, that's all part of hara karila. That's called all hara. And what's the Gemara Bia? The Gemara Bia is only going to be after a person goes in all the way. So he said also hara zu achnasas hatara. And Gemara Bia, he says, is Gemara Bia mamish. So he explained that Gemara Bia means literally Gemara Bia. And mikan ve'elech einoi elo neshike. If it's less than achnasas hatara, that's what mikan ve'elech over here means, that if it's less than achnasas hatara, so that's only called neshike u pater alel. And then he would be pater on that. It's not even considered to be hara at all. So now Polik are the Shmuel. So over here, the way it's being quoted in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, the way Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda is quoting the name of Rabbi Yechanan, so he's not only arguing on what Rabbi Bar Bachana said in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, but he's also arguing what Shmuel said. He's clearly saying that Neshike, you're going to be totally potter. So that argues on what Shmuel said, that Neshike is achnasas hatara. Again, what Shmuel said, that Neshike is hara, that is. Okay.